In this video, we're going to be talking about what it takes to develop an attractive presence. I'm Ben Ufana, and like so many people, I carried the emotional wounding from the traumas of my childhood and adolescence and the dysfunction of my family of origin. Consequently, I found myself forming romantic attachments. A lot of it was became reenactments of those early traumas and dysfunction. And there was a lot of vulnerability, insecurity, often fearing abandonment. And that wasn't too attractive. It often had the effect of pushing women away. But I was determined to do whatever it took to heal. And as I did so, I began to notice a lot of differences in the quality of my relationships. I noticed that more people were drawn to me, that they would open up, sharing their feelings, their concerns, and I could feel that I was connecting on a much deeper level. To go further, I do want to mention here that I'm just now completing a much more in-depth article that I would very much encourage you to read. So look below the video and click on the link and read the article to gain all the additional valuable insights that are not included in the video here. Now, one of the reasons many of us struggle to attract is the fact that we're not all that present in our bodies. And that happens for a number of reasons. Those of us who were subjected to any kind of verbal, emotional, physical, or sexual trauma, or a combination of those, because we've experienced these traumas and weren't able to facilitate the healing of them, we still carry a lot of the pain, the wounding within our bodies. And so that created this disconnect, caused us to become dissociated. Also, if we were neglected, if we weren't given adequate stimulation, maybe there wasn't a lot of incentive for us to be all that present in our bodies. And even the fact that so many of us, we've never learned to work constructively with our emotions. And what happens is when we numb ourselves to, is we avoid or distract ourselves from our authentic emotional responses. It creates disconnects from parts of ourselves, including from our physical bodies. I became acutely aware of how dissociated or disconnected I was from my own body. I would purposefully make an effort to show up more fully present in all my interactions. Sometimes, for example, if I was interacting with the woman I found myself attracted to, if I was talking with the radio host about being a guest on their show, and I'd be feeling all of this anxiety, nervousness. And I would purposefully, in the midst of the interaction, I'd be breathing into all the feelings and sensations that I was experiencing in those moments within my body. And as I did so, I found that it helped me to soften, to open up, to become more relaxed, and to become more present in the moment, in that interaction. And I could feel the many ways in which I would withdraw or contract in different situations or interactions that elicited some kind of emotional response. So I would intentionally feel myself bringing more presence into my body. It was just an act of intention. A lot of that had to do with just focusing on feelings and sensations, even projecting my awareness out from my body through the room or through the space I was occupying, and even visualizing my presence occupying more of the space that I was in at that time. I also began to pay more attention to my posture so that I would straighten up, whether I was standing or sitting. If my arms were crossed, I would uncross them. I would place both feet flat on the floor and to occupy physically more of the space I was in. Now, anytime that we go through some kind of heart-rending drama, whether it's a breakup or divorce, or if we're struggling with patterns of abandonment or rejection, or someone has ghosted us, that evokes some extraordinarily painful feelings. Most of us not knowing how to work effectively with our emotions, what happens is much of that pain remains trapped within our bodies. One of the meditation practices that I developed over the years to do this, start by bringing that individual to the forefront of your awareness. See him or her as though they were directly in front of you. Notice what you're feeling, what physical sensations, what emotions, and where these emotions situated within your body. To the best of your ability, fully immerse your awareness in the depths of these feelings and sensations. And as you do so, breathe very softly, very deeply, because by doing so, it's going to help you to begin to digest those painful losses, whatever it is that you've gone through, the sadness, the grief, the hurt. As you continue to breathe into these feelings and bodily sensations, it helps you to digest both the lived experience, to diffuse and digest these charged emotions. As you do so, it has the effect of opening your heart in a way that you're able to grow from the experience, and it increases your capacity to show up more fully present so that you can allow the love in and that you have a greater capacity to love others. When we come into this world at the time we're born, we're completely vulnerable, dependent upon our parents or caregivers. If we feel that our emotional responses are unacceptable or some part of us is not accepted by our parent or caregiver, we may deny or disconnect from these parts of ourselves. As we grow through our childhood and adolescence, we start looking outside to peers, friends, people in the community. Again, we want to be accepted. We want to feel that we're part of the community. But there are many instances where we may be feeling hurt or vulnerable, anxious, and maybe we're dealing with confusion. And if the fact that we don't know how to deal with our emotions, and we may not have anyone that we can open up to or express what we're feeling. So, what happens is a lot of times we shut down what we're feeling or disconnect from it while attempting to maintain appearances. In other words, we're presenting an image just because we want to be loved and accepted. But in doing so, we're not being fully authentic and we are disconnecting from parts of ourselves. When we disconnect, it prevents us from being as fully present and engaged. We're not being our authentic selves. I'm very fortunate that I had the opportunity to train for years with Shifu Li Tailiang, a Chinese master in the internal martial arts of Xing Quan, Baguazhang, Tai Chi, and Qigong. One of the unfortunate things for so many people in our present day is that with our distractive technologies, our smartphones and social media, it's making it extraordinarily difficult for us to focus our attention. It's basically rewiring our brains. And the fact that we now have shorts, reels, and TikToks, it's making us very impatient. It's getting us to where we're expecting instant results. And when we don't get that, we get frustrated and we give up. In my training with Shifu, he would emphasize this building chi, building the life force in the body. And those who had attained mastery would be continually doing practice on a daily basis. That practice, that power would become stronger and stronger. These masters, they could, using that chi power, they could literally, they could send them flying across the room, or they could strike that person, rupture internal organs. But that chi power has many applications. It's also utilized to facilitate healing within the body and mind. And these disciplines utilize the chi power to evolve spiritually. And for me, training with Shifu, I would apply these same principles as I worked with these various practices and the therapeutic interventions to facilitate the healing within my own body and mind. And while we're on the subject, both yoga and Qigong and other internal martial arts practices are disciplines that integrate the body, mind, and spirit. Working with these disciplines will enable you to cultivate the life force within the body through specific movements and breathing exercises and meditations. And not only do they stimulate the flow of life force through your body, but they also revitalize your organs and systems. As you become more attuned to your body and its sensations, you're going to develop greater self awareness. And this heightened awareness It's going to allow you to become more present in your interactions with others. Your movements will become more graceful and deliberate, and you'll exude more of a natural confidence. Most of us accumulate a great deal of stagnation within our bodies because of the foods we eat, medications we take, smoking, drinking, use of other recreational drugs, antidepressants, and other psych meds, and the fact that most of us haven't learned how to work with our emotions. What happens is we end up internalizing much of the stress of our daily lives and our emotional responses to these distressing events. When we suppress emotion or we self medicate to numb ourselves or we distract ourselves, that emotion that we're not processing turns into this heavy, dense, congestive residue that settles into the body's organs and tissues. It leaves us more disconnected from parts of ourselves. It also creates barriers between ourselves and others. People are not always so kind to one another, and in many instances, will say or even do hurtful things intentionally. For that reason, many of us continue to hold sadness, grief, disappointment, frustration, and much of it gets situated within our chest cavity. Years ago, when I was living in New Mexico, I was feeling a lot of deadness in my chest after an ex girlfriend of mine. Her fiance at that time told her, if you have to be friends with your ex, I will leave you. And so late at night, when I would be driving from Santa Fe back to Albuquerque, I began to center my awareness in the middle of my chest where my heart and lungs reside. At first, I didn't feel much of anything, just faint vapors of feeling. But as I continued to center my awareness in the middle of my chest while breathing softly and deeply, the feelings, the sensations became progressively stronger. Sadness, emptiness, loneliness. After some time, I could feel this whole torrent of emotions flowing through me. And after some weeks, it felt as though my whole chest cavity were aching. But as I continued, and as I was able to digest the backlog of emotion within my chest cavity, I could feel this opening. And through that opening, I could feel this sense of euphoria and connectedness to a higher power. Our culture places tremendous emphasis on the heart or being open hearted. And while the heart is important, I find that the deepest levels of bonding actually come from the abdominal region. And that's also where we experience empathy. The problem for many of us is that we accumulate so much stagnation in this part of our body. And when that happens, there's a deadening. We lose touch with this crucial aspect of ourselves. The enteric nervous system is a network of neurons lining the digestive tract that governs the function of the gastrointestinal system. It produces neurotransmitters such as dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine, and is intricately connected with the central nervous system, enabling the bidirectional communication between the gut and the brain. The ENS plays a crucial role in mind-body intelligence, cognition, and instinct. Working with the practice I'm about to teach you, will activate the enteric nervous system. Now, as I said, so many people have disconnected from this abdominal region within their own bodies. And a big part of that, as I said before, is that many of us are so dissociated. Either we inhabit the body from the diaphragm up or even from the throat up. In that case, we're basically living in our heads. But when you bring your awareness to the abdomen, you're tapping into a vast reservoir of emotion and sensation. So, in order to do this practice, start by bringing as much of your awareness as you can down to your abdomen, feeling any sensation or emotion. For most of us, it's initially going to be sensation. And again, the fact that many of us have spent so much of our lives numbing or disconnecting emotionally, we may not feel a whole lot at first. In the beginning, when I first started practicing, I just felt a little heaviness or congestion. Gradually, I began to feel some digestive activity. And many of you, as you start out, it may feel flat or numb. But to the best of your ability, bring your full awareness to your abdomen. Whatever you feel there, immerse your awareness in those sensations. Feel as though you're in the middle of those sensations, our feelings, and begin to breathe very softly, very deeply. And as you do so, what happens is And it may take time, some days or weeks or even months, but as you continue to practice, you begin to experience this awakening. Often it starts out, you begin to experience this warmth, maybe tingling or pulsing. There can be rumbling, churning. You feel all this digestive activity. It actually helps to improve your digestive functions so that you're digesting the food you eat and eliminating waste better. As I said, years ago, I was much more dissociated or disconnected from my body. But what I found is that as I began to work consistently with this practice, it had the effect of dropping my awareness deeper into my body. And as that happened, I noticed that as I would interact with people, I could hear what they said, but I could feel within my body where they were coming from. I could feel their intentions. By consistently bringing your awareness to the abdomen and immersing your awareness in the sensations or any emotions that arise from this part of your body, what happens is you cultivate a much deeper connection with yourself. And this self connection, in turn, enhances your ability to connect with others on a more profound level, making your presence not just attractive, but deeply resonant. There's no way to get around the fact that people are attracted to others who are physically attractive. We cannot change the fact that we're all aging, but there's a lot we can do to mitigate the aging process so that we age more gracefully. Far too many people let themselves go because they're getting little, if any, exercise. And for that reason, many people get into absolutely horrible shape, and that's not appealing to look at. It's important for all of us to be getting adequate exercise. And I encourage you, whether it's sports or working out, doing yoga, some martial arts practice, walking, whatever it takes, just get out there and get moving. That helps to improve the life force in your body, and it also enables you to be more fully present. If you go into almost any supermarket here in the United States, you'll find aisle after aisle of all this heavily processed food with all kinds of chemical additives and loaded with refined sugar, foods that are lacking in nutritional value. But consuming these foods can have all kinds of disastrous health consequences, such as obesity, heart disease, stroke, and a range of other health issues, and they cause us to age a lot faster. It amazes me that people even eat this garbage, and yet, in many ways, it's a reflection of the level of consciousness, or more accurately, the lack thereof. But as much as possible, I encourage you to be consuming the most nutrient rich foods available, especially consuming a lot of raw fruits and vegetables, because in doing so, it helps to cleanse your body and also contains more vital nutrients. It contains this added life force that gives you this healthy, radiant glow. Getting adequate sleep is also crucial because when you're sleep deprived, you're more likely to feel tired and irritable, and you're more disconnected. It's harder to process your emotions. On the other hand, when you're well rested, it allows you to be more present, more engaged, more clear minded. And when you're rested, you're able to be more present. Many of us are spending way too much time indoors, behind the screens of our computers, scrolling on our smartphones, and consuming digital media of one form or another. The problem with being so sedentary and being on sensory overload is that it's causing us to become very disconnected and sluggish. Spending time in the forests, the grasslands, the mountains, or along bodies of water allows us to decompress. We can feel the stress coming out of our bodies, and the earth is healing. Being in natural settings revitalizes us. It nourishes our bodies. It diffuses the distressing emotions. It enhances our mental clarity and our overall well being. Another consideration is if you're spending time with people you don't like or working at a job you hate, it's going to stress you out and evoke all kinds of uncomfortable feelings. And all this stress and distressing emotion is going to have a negative impact on your presence, making you less vibrant and engaged. It's going to leave you feeling drained and irritable and disconnected. And that's going to create additional barriers between yourself and others. Conversely, the more time you're doing what you truly love to do, the more you're going to enjoy your life. And the happiness and fulfillment that come from pursuing your passions is going to emanate from you. That's going to create a more attractive presence. It's going to draw people to you. Pursuing your passions helps you to stay more present, to be more engaged in the moment, and more connected to your inner self. That plays a big part in making you more attractive to others. Even as you take the steps to heal, you're developing your body and mind, you're becoming more present, more radiant. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to be attracted to you. Of course not. There are people that you're just not going to resonate, or them with you. You might even find that some people may be intimidated by you because as you're taking the steps to facilitate your own healing, it's going to have the effect of putting them in touch with emotions and issues, things they're holding within themselves that they rather not face. And sometimes it is painful or disconcerting when people pull away from us. And yet it's a filtering mechanism. It's just part of being able to let go of those individuals who may not really be in our best interest in order to create the opening to attract to us other individuals with whom we experience a deeper resonance, with whom we can learn and grow and evolve. I want to say a little more about emotional intelligence. I'm going to refer to my article here. But when we shut down emotionally, what happens is it often creates this flatness or disconnect. And when we're holding these profoundly deep emotional wounds, there could be these tremendous gaps in our consciousness. But as we heal, what happens is we start to bridge these gaps within ourselves and with others. Emotion acts as a conductive fluid, connecting the various aspects of ourselves and also facilitating deeper connections between ourselves and others. As we face our issues head on and heal the deep emotional wounds, we begin to feel better within ourselves. We become more resilient. There's a lightness that emerges, making us more easygoing, more relaxed, and capable of letting go. As we work through the pain and sadness and grief, we develop greater empathy and compassion, along with a comforting presence that emanates from within. As a result, we develop a presence that not only attracts others, but also helps them to heal. At the age of 20, I began to train with Horace Delkai, one of the last surviving traditional doctors, a medicine man among the Kiowa Indian tribe. Horace would pass on portions of his own healing gifts. And in doing so, he would then have me go on the vision quest in order to earn the right to work with these gifts of healing, what they refer to as medicine. Vision quests typically involves fasting alone in the mountains for 4 days and nights with no food and no water. There were times during the vision quest where I could feel this extraordinarily powerful presence descending into my body. And as that happens, I've often had the memories, traumas of my childhood and adolescence, and even some of the more recent reenactments that were occurring at that time in my life. I would have all this surfacing, along with all the vivid sensory impressions, all the emotions attached to those lived experiences. But I could feel this extraordinarily powerful presence working within me to help me to transform or transmute these lived experiences and all these highly charged emotions so I could digest it all. And as all that was happening, I could also feel this presence working within me to build or construct this entirely new foundation. As a result of this transformation that has occurred over the course of many years, and is through a combination of all this intensive practice that I'd be doing on a daily basis, the various therapeutic interventions, whether deep tissue body work, the sessions with gifted healers. But I'd say the most powerful aspect was going through the vision quest. As a result of this transformation, it facilitated the changes that enabled me to attract healthier companions into my life with whom I could co create more meaningful and more deeply fulfilling relationships. Having trained with a traditional Native American doctor and further advancing through the many vision quests that I've gone through, I work as a conduit. In other words, I allow this same kind of presence that works with me when I'm on the mountain. I allow the same kind of presence to work through me to assist other people, to facilitate healing within their bodies and minds. I've had so many people come to me over the years that were either in the midst of a breakup or a divorce, struggling with patterns of abandonment and rejection and unrequited love, others who have been ghosted. As they work with me, the sadness, the grief, the devastation is transformed in a way so that it becomes fuel for growth. Those that have struggled in disastrous relationships are able to let go of those unhealthy attachments that have caused them enormous suffering. Many of these individuals, as I continue to work with them, I watch as they undergo this transformation. And as that happens, many have attracted into their own life healthier companions with whom they truly resonate, forming lasting and deeply loving relationships. Anyway, it may have seemed like I covered a lot, but I'm barely scratching the surface here. So I would encourage you to read the article, look below and click on the link and read the article. Also, if you haven't already, click like and subscribe and share the video and the accompanying article with anyone you feel will benefit.